astrologers complain after this is all set up, hey, the Jews aren't following the decree to worship the golden image. And in particular, Daniel's friends aren't worshiping it. Let's see, now we're going to look for a little bit of contrast. We looked at Daniel for a minute. Let's look at how Nebuchadnezzar handles a tough situation. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you don't serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music," they had quite the band. They had more volunteers than we have here. When you hear the sound of the music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? So it seems like he did not remember the God of gods that he was talking about. And also, instead of staying calm in a stressful situation and using tact and being likable, that's all out the window, right? He's furious. Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or really I should probably say Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, showed great character, even when their lives were on the line. And I wonder if Daniel was kind of an influence to them. It's hard to know, but I wonder. Anyway, you probably know the story. They said, no, we're not going to worship anyone but God. And Nebuchadnezzar, he was irate. And he's like, oh, heat the furnace up 7 times hot or whatever. He made this furnace so hot that the people tending it, several of them died. Just stupid hot, all right? I mean, like the regular furnace wasn't enough to burn somebody. You got to make it stupid hot. And he throws all 3 of them in the furnace, and they're just like walking around in there. And he sees a 4th person there, and he's like, what's going on? They're not being burned up. And he says, come out of there. And they come out, and like their clothes aren't even singed. And this is what Nebuchadnezzar says. He says, praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command, and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, and their houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way. All right. So Nebuchadnezzar has had a change of heart again, but he's still Nebi, as we can be seen by his quickness to cut people into pieces. What is up with this guy? His character is something else. He's fickle. You know, he goes this way, he goes that way. He's quick to anger. He's violent. Yeah. And as we'll see more of soon, he's extremely prideful. All right. Chapter 4. Again, years pass. We're somewhere around maybe the 35th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. He's conquered Egypt. He's conquered other places. And he's probably feeling pretty good about himself, right? I mean, he's the king of the most powerful empire in the world. Among other things, he built this place called the Ishtar Gate going into Babylon. Parts of this gate and the promenade that led into it were 82 feet high. It was excavated in the early 1900s, and they found partially intact the walls and all these reliefs, and they rebuilt it in a museum in Berlin. And that's what you're seeing a picture of there. And it has this luxurious blue color from a rare pigment. It's baked into the stones. It's made from lapis lazuli, which is a precious stone. It was really desired, sought after back then. And in fact, that line that I keep showing, that's one of the reliefs from this gate. It was impressive, right? And again, it's a prosperous empire. Things are great. And he is kind of, I'm the best. It's basically kind of what's going on. And then lo and behold, he has another dream. He has another nightmare. And it makes him really uneasy. So he goes to the wise men, but this time, interestingly, he tells them the dream, and they still can't interpret it. Daniel comes in after a few other things happen, and he hears the dream. And when he hears it, Daniel starts getting really nervous because he knows that this dream does not mean good things for Nebuchadnezzar. He's like, okay, right? So here we go. This is another character moment, right? He's like, okay, I'm in this position. I've got to tell him something that means bad things for the guy that can cut me into pieces, right? And maybe the thought went through his mind, I could just make this not quite as bad, but that's not what he chooses to do. He does show some empathy. He says, my Lord, if only the dream applied to your enemies and its meaning to your adversaries. But then he says, but this is the interpretation, Your Majesty. And this is the decree the Most High has issued against the Lord, my Lord the King. You will be driven away from people and live with the wild animals. You will eat grass like the ox and be drenched with the dew of heaven. 7 times will pass by for you until you acknowledge that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes. And then in verse 27 it says, Therefore, your majesty, be pleased to accept my advice. Renounce your sins by doing what is right, and your wickedness by being kind to the oppressed. It may be that then your prosperity will continue. So let's look at Daniel's character in this encounter again. Like I said, he empathized a little bit at the beginning. He said, I don't want this to happen to you, showing that he cares. While Daniel was respectful in the way he talked to the king, he wasn't so nice that he dulled down the point or softened the truth. He was still honest, and he was still direct. He wasn't fearful, and that's saying something given the situation. He was nervous, but he wasn't fearful, and he still carried through with giving the message. So in this example, Daniel did his job, and he wasn't killed. Nebuchadnezzar apparently thanks him, but Nebuchadnezzar didn't really change. He's like, okay, something's going to happen. It might be bad for 7 years. But nothing happens. And it's not till a year later when he's up walking on the walls checking out his awesome city that he's thinking, man, look at all this awesome stuff I've done. He hears a voice from heaven that repeats this prophecy, and that's when it happens. He goes crazy for 7 years. It says that he eats grass like animals, and he's just basically out of his mind. After that period, he comes back to his senses, and then he issues a proclamation. He says, God's the best. Kind of flips back and forth again. Anyway, throughout this situation, Daniel's character made him an effective messenger for God. All right, chapter 5. Again, years passed. Daniel was there for, I don't remember, something like 50 or 60 years. But years pass again, and now Belshazzar, who is likely Nebuchadnezzar's son, it's not real clear. He was in Nebuchadnezzar was his forebearer, whatever, anyway, predecessor, but it's probably Nebuchadnezzar's son, Belshazzar, not to be confused with Belteshazzar. He's ruling in Babylon, and he has a huge feast, and he uses the golden goblets that were pillaged from the temple in Jerusalem when they sacked Jerusalem. And he's like, oh, this is awesome, and they pray to the gods of silver and the gods of gold, and in the midst of all this, a hand appears and writes in the plaster on the wall. And Belshazzar is so scared that the Bible says his knees start knocking, which I love that. It's a great detail. And they're like, what do we do? And like father, like son, he summons in all the astrologers and the magicians, and naturally they couldn't figure out what this meant. And the queen says, hey, by the way, I remember this guy your dad made the chief of the magicians back in the day. You should call him in. So Daniel's brought in, and Belshazzar tells Belteshazzar that if he can explain it, he'll make him the 3rd highest ruler in the kingdom. And Daniel says, you may keep your gifts for yourself and give your rewards to someone else. Nevertheless, I will read the writing for the king and tell him what it means. I'm not sure if Daniel's just saying, I'm not doing this for your rewards. I'm just doing it. Or maybe he's showing a little impatience. I don't know. He's like, I'm getting tired of this crazy family and their crazy kings. I wouldn't blame him. Either way, he delivers a hard message, even though it could be his neck on the line. And this one is a really hard message. It's basically, there's 10 verses. I'm not going to read it, but it's like, King, you are arrogant, and God's going to humble you. You're going down. It's basically what he's telling him. But he says it much more specifically and eloquently than that. And Belshazzar accepts the interpretation and says, okay, there's a decree. You're the 3rd highest person in the realm. I don't know if that decree ever came to pass because Darius was killed that night, which was the result of the prophecy that day. And Darius the Mede takes over. And that's it for Belshazzar. All right, and now, chapter 6, the chapter that you have, if you grew up in the church and you went to Sunday school, even probably twice, you probably heard this, the Den of Lions. Okay, so the new guy in town, Darius, he appoints 120 satraps, which are like provincial governors, because the kingdom's huge at this point. He appoints all these governors to rule the kingdom. And these satraps are overseen by 3 administrators. And one of those 3 is Daniel. Daniel continues to distinguish himself. He does such a good job with all of his duties that he keeps getting noticed. But at this point, the satraps, some of the satraps and the other administrators they're like, this is annoying. They're jealous of the success that he's having. And they're like, all right, how can we bring this guy down? And this is a reminder, I think, just because Daniel, assuming that he's still tactful and considerate the way he deals with people, that's not enough to prevent you from having enemies. You may try to get along with everybody, but that's no guarantee. And so, yeah, he was certainly getting some enemies here. And they're like, okay, what's he doing wrong? How can we get him in trouble? And it says in chapter 6, verse 5, it says, we will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel unless it has to do with the law of his God. And so these administrators and satraps went as a group to the king and said, may King Darius live forever. The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or human being during the next 30 days, except you, Your Majesty, shall be thrown into the lion's den. Now, Your Majesty, issue the decree and put it into writing so that it cannot be altered in accordance with the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. So King Darius put the decree in writing. These guys, I think, are basically clever politicians. Is what we've got going on here. And they were appealing to the king's sense of pride in order to defeat the humble Daniel. Naturally, this didn't change anything for Daniel. He kept on praying to God. And he gets caught praying to God. And so these other guys go to the king and say, hey, king, doesn't that decree still stand? Well, Daniel over there, you can almost hear Daniel over there is breaking it. Hey, king, these guys are really pretty annoying. Anyway, King Darius actually likes Daniel. He's been around Daniel long enough that King Darius really likes him. He doesn't want him to get thrown in the lion's den. He's distressed about this. And there's basically, till the end of the day, there's this political fight where he's trying to get Daniel off the hook. But they basically come back and remember, you signed this in the law of the Medes and the Persians, and it can't be changed. And so he's like, what am I going to do? So Daniel gets thrown into the lion's den and gets sealed up. And you know the story. The king's stressed out all night. He doesn't sleep well. First thing in the morning, he runs in there, hey, Daniel, how's it going? And, one other thing I think is neat that he said on the way in, he said, may your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you. So the next morning, what's going on? And I think in verse 21 it says, may the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done anything wrong before you, Your Majesty. He just spent a night in the den with the lions, and yet he is still so polite. May the king live forever. Hey, Your Majesty, supposed to get me out of here. That's probably what I would have been saying all night long. Anyway, so like any good Babylonian king, he does an about-face, and he throws the men who accuse Daniel into the den along with their families. What is it with this country? I'm just so glad I'm not living in Babylon during this time. Anyway. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how Daniel lived. We've seen glimpses of how he made his choices over decades. This has been over multiple situations, over decades, and he's shown this strong character over and over again. Man, when I see that, I'm like, I would love to be more like that. Do you feel that way? That you could just be that consistent and strong in your character? And it begs the question, how did he become so strong in his character? I think part of it was due to several of these key moments in Daniel's life, strengthening his already good character. A neat kind of explanation a little bit about the word character. Character is engraved within us. The engraving isn't always planned and clean. The word character comes from the Greek character, that means engraved mark. Another quote. Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. And that was by Helen Keller. I think she probably knows what she's talking In a sense, hard situations can chisel away at us. They leave their mark. Like a sculptor who is chipping away at a big block of marble to bring out the sculpture that's inside of it. And if you look at some of Daniel's high-stakes moments, as they continue to shape him and strengthen his character, you'll see that these high-stakes moments went from high to higher stakes. At the first one, it was with his trainer, right? He's like, hey, we want to eat something different to this guy. It's still a stressful situation. He's still part of the captor. But, and that went well. And then the next situation is with the king, and he's having to deliver this message, but it's an okay message. It's not, a hard message to deliver, per se. And then he goes back to the king again, and now Nebuchadnezzar knows him, but he's got to give him a hard message. Basically, hey, you're going crazy for 7 years. Stepped up again. And then with Belshazzar, this is a king who doesn't know Daniel, and he has a really hard message. Hey, you're going down, king, right? And he was nervous, but he pulled through in that hard situation. And then on this last situation with the den of lions, he was literally up against a new law that would kill him for practicing his faith. These are some pretty crazy situations. And yet, he continues, whether he's in front of the most powerful people on earth or the stakes include his life, he continues to hold strong to that character. What we see in his commitment is consistently godly character. And because of Daniel's choices, there were some pretty crazy pagan kings who, at least for a little while, worshipped the God of the Jews. So I think part of it is that these hard situations sculpt us. But how does Daniel get the strength to hold up in these moments? Did his character really just start with the first crisis? No, I don't think so. I think his character was in place and recognized before that point. I think it all started with his commitment to God and with living in integrity, consistent with his relationship to God in his everyday moments. In verse 10, when the decree against praying to God was issued, it said 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to God, just like he always had. He was already praying. He didn't start praying when things got hard. He was already in the habit of praying. He was living with a commitment that was so obvious to the people around him that Darius said, hey, I hope that God that you serve continually saves you. Daniel has amazingly strong character, so I want to look just for a second at some of his choices and some of his focus that I think lead to that character. First of all, he made a choice to be humble. We see that in the way he gives the glory to God. And in that humility, I think God blesses his character by helping him be more tactful, liked, and highly esteemed by other people. He chose understanding from God. He sought that in his relationship with God. And I think God blessed him by making him wise, trusted, and good with dreams. He was a man of prayer, right? We just talked about that. And I think that's part of why God gave him peace during stressful times. He was committed to God's ways. We see that commitment was really strong. And because of that commitment, he was blessed over and over again. Daniel's focus was on God. And because his focus was on God, God blessed him with a godly character. We know bad things can happen to good people, and Daniel knew this too. Yet he kept his focus on God and pursued his faith daily, and it gave him the strength and boldness to hold firm when those bad things happened. And because of this, God was able to shape his character, and God was able to do great things through him. The same is true for us. If we make that choice to keep our focus on God, even through all the little things, the little everyday choices, and make those consistent with a faithful relationship with God, we'll be like soft clay in God's hands. The potter can shape us and bring out the character in us that he needs. And then we can face things. We can have the peace to face unreasonable kings or a den of lions or whatever challenges are in our future. So my challenge to you this week is that you refocus on the commitment to God, the focus on God as a daily thing, through all the little things, so that God can shape our character and give us the strength to stand firm when the real challenges come. All right, I'm going to lead us in prayer, and then we'll close with one more song. Let's go to God in prayer. God, thank you for this example in Daniel, and I pray for that character that he has. I pray, Lord, that you will help us to be more committed to you, to be focused on you, so that day in and day out we can serve you. Day in and day out we can be consistent in our character, regardless of whether people see us or not, so that we can honor you and be a tool in your hands. Thank you, Lord, for the kindness that you've shown to us and the patience that you've shown to us. We just pray for your continued strength this coming week and always. Thank you for your Son, Jesus, Lord, and in his name we pray.